Oh, that's much better. So hi, my name's Mike. I work for Clever, and I'm also one of the co-founders and partners here at Starspace. So we're going to talk about pitfalls of networking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a bunch of embarrassing stories of stupid stuff I've done that was not very good networking. And then hopefully, as I'm telling you those stories, and kind of living into maybe an act of vulnerability here, you might feel comfortable as I ask some questions about sharing about experiences of your own, sharing questions that you have. The goal for this is to be very participatory. I don't intend to talk for the next 40 minutes or so. Hopefully I'm doing 10 or 15 minutes of talking, and we're doing a whole lot of discussion. That's my goal. So before we jump in and go through everything, I do want to get to know who's in this room. And so if you don't mind just sharing your name and just kind of what you do or where you are in life or whatever else you want to share in under 20 seconds. Do you mind starting us off?
Hi, this is Tommy Lee.
Tom Lee?
Yes.
Tommy Lee?
I'm an expert engineer. Story of my life, Python, C++, C#, and Java.
Awesome.
That's it.
Cool. Good to meet you.
I'm Jake Spencer. I've been a programmer since about 2002 when I joined the Air Force, and currently employed with stuff.
Jake Spencer, formerly working with the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force. My last job was actually a contractor for Walmart.
Awesome.
So.
Cool. Great to meet you.
My name is Tim Ott. I am currently working for CentOS Corporation as a service sales rep, and I'm just kind of learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, learning a little bit of Python here and there. Never worked as an computer programmer, but that's the
Good.
actual role.
Cool.
Hi everybody, my name is Karina. I'm
Karina.
currently a teacher, so it's a long story how I got here, but I'm curious how to see the networking here is applicable to Germany.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Daniel, and I break a lot of things in JavaScript.
Oh, hi, I'm Carson McKinstry. I'm a
Carson.
front developer for statistics. We write pretty much same as Daniel, we write pretty much everything in JavaScript.
I'm Grace Mestis, and I just break a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a local technologist here, and just here to learn more about the meeting.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm David Enrich. I'm a graphic designer trying to go front-end web development. Just trying to learn everything I can in JavaScript, trying to conquer that MERN stack.
You may have a sticker addiction as well. I mean, you may want to just kind of admit to that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A collection. Okay. All right. Good to meet you.
Hi, I'm Dan Barron. I'm a solutions architect working for a consulting company, CSS International. I focus a lot on the business intelligence and enterprise performance management.
Ryan Johnson, I'm a graphic designer and software developer.
Clifford Bristow, I work for a home loan company. I'm just trying to get the understanding of some of the CSS and Java.
Gotcha.
Hi, I'm Amir Joshi. Currently, between jobs looking for my first, kind of first period of front-end development, work with Oklahoma or anywhere, maybe front-end development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So it's kind of starting getting into frameworks.
Gotcha. A lot of front-end developers in the room. I am not a coder. I took AP Computer Science back in high school, and calculus and chemistry. I was going to be a math science guy, and then I changed direction, and I'll tell that story here in just a second. So that's me, head of biz dev at Clever, and I'm a co-founder and partner here at Starspace. If you're not familiar with Clever, we do enterprise software, mobile apps, websites, and we've recently done some really phenomenal and fun things with augmented reality and virtual reality. And so we're about to start we're starting a brand new project this week. That's going to be kind of a marquee thing for us. I'll be excited to tell you guys more about that as we get going. And then you know about Starspace, a hub for tech entrepreneurship and innovation. So I'm going to tell the story of things I've learned related to networking. And we all know we're not talking about like computer networking, right? We're not talking about like hooking computers up with cables and wireless signals and things. I'm not telling you about that. I'm telling you about how to talk to humans and achieve some goal. But I'm going to talk about my career path. Some lessons I learned in high school, some lessons. I'm going to skip the lessons I learned in college and ministry work for sake of time. Lessons I learned as a public school teacher. I taught high school for a couple years. Lessons I learned as a nonprofit fundraiser, and lessons I've learned as a business development guy in the tech sector. So that's kind of how we're going to go. Pitfall number 1 for networking is not preparing. Not preparing for when you go out and you network with people. What do you think I mean by that? How would you prepare for networking? Okay, know who you're talking to? Yeah? Personal hygiene. Oh, thank you for saying it. Yeah, it needs to be said. So let me give you my kind of embarrassing story. So when I was in high school, and this isn't about networking, it was a job interview I went on, but it really illustrates well the idea of not preparing. So in high school, I worked as a host at a restaurant called Coach's. That's kind of a string of restaurants. They've got one at the ballpark, but there was a Coach's in Tulsa where I grew up. And so while I was in high school, I was a host because my friends were hosts. They got me a job. But the Coach's in Tulsa was always dead. Not very much business. It was very slow. And as a host, I was paid $4 an hour plus tip share. And tip share was a share of the tips that was made by the waiters and the bartenders. So my tip share was terrible. Like maybe on a really good day it'd be decent, $50 or something, but usually it was nothing, right? And I had a friend in high school who was just kind of a sort of a friend, and she was a hostess at Texas Roadhouse. In Texas Roadhouse, she'd come home from a shift with $100 easy. And that was big money to me in high school. And I thought, why am I making $20 on an average day and she's making $100? That doesn't make any sense. I should go over there. And so I was like, wow, how do you get in? And she's like, oh, we need hosts. We need hosts really badly. Just come on over, call them and send them a resume and just come on over. And I was like, okay, great. So I did it. I called, I sent a resume, and I got an interview. And then I showed up for my interview, and the manager said, so tell me, what days do you want to work? And I was like, I don't care. It's like, hey, well, what shifts do you want to work? No, I don't care. Well, why do you like being a host? It's okay. Well, what do you know about Texas Roadhouse? Nothing really. Okay, so why are you here? And I went through that in 10 seconds, but that experience was like the longest interview of my life that took the shortest amount of time. Because during the interview, I realized how dumb I sounded sitting there at the job that I wanted that would pay the money I wanted to make. And I didn't have anything to say. It's because I didn't prepare. I didn't come in knowing the kinds of questions that were going to be asked. I didn't come in knowing the kinds of things I wanted to share about myself. I was a really good host. They would have loved having me as their host. I was fantastic. But I didn't get the job, and it wasn't that they made a bad choice. They made the perfect choice based on that interview, the information I provided them. This kid doesn't know what he's doing, right? So when I think about networking, and this example helps me as I think about networking, is you need to have some sort of goal in mind of why you're networking. So why do we network? Step one in preparing to network is thinking about the goal. What are you trying to achieve? So as you're trying to network, what are you trying to achieve? You come to freeCodeCamp for the stuff, but also maybe to meet other people. What are you trying to achieve as you're meeting these other people? Do you know? Growth? How do you achieve growth through networking?
Me personally,
Yeah.
the more connections that I have, the more connections I gain knowledge, I gain friendships, I gain value, as long as I'm gaining the right kind of growth.
Awesome. So when you think about growth, so I'm going to dig in, and then the next person gets to have the same fun experience. So as you think about growth, and you have a goal of growing and meeting new people, do you have a goal of how many people you want to meet? Yeah, yeah.
Depends on the situation. But
Okay.
oftentimes, I go into situations where I have a goal of meeting X number of people that are going to bring value in one area.
And I bet Grayson, because I know Grayson, I bet you know who you want to meet. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know. But so when you think about going to a networking event, so here's one thing when I go to a networking event, if it's a meetup where the list of the attendees is printed, or if it's a Facebook event where I can see the list of attendees, or if I know who's organizing the event and I can see the list of attendees, I'm going to go look at that list. And I'm going to look at the names of the people on that list. And if there's somebody on that list that's on my radar that I want to meet, and I'm a sales guy, so I'm looking for people who are IT directors or marketing directors or leaders of companies who are wanting to build custom software, potentially solve a business problem, if I see that somebody's in there that meets that criteria, what am I going to do? I'm going to look them up. I'm going to take that name and I'm going to go to LinkedIn, right? And I'm going to go to Facebook. And I'm going to figure out if they like Legos and if they have kids, because I have kids and I like Legos, and that can give me something to talk about, right? So does anyone here right now do any preparation before you go to a networking event? You do some of that? What kind of preparation do you do?
Some of what you've already said, like see who's attending in particular, what type of event is actually being hosted, or as in like who's the hoster.
Right.
Just that.
Yeah.
Also want to make sure, hey, do I actually want to attend this networking? Or is it even worth my time?
So I'll tell you my preparations. I have two very specific goals whenever I go, regardless of the event. I want to meet 3 people. That's it. If I go to an event with 50 people, I'm not going to try to meet all 50 people. I'm going to try to really meet and have conversations with 3 people. Because that, in my opinion, is about the highest number, typically, you can meet and develop some sort of relationship or connection to, usually in the time allotted to networking events. 3 people is what I try to go for. That way, it also 3 people who can get to know me. The second thing I always try to do is I always try to get to know the person who's organizing the event. Because the person who's organizing the event, when I get to know them, if they're a person who's organizing an event, they run into a lot of people. I organize several different groups and meetups. I'm involved with 1 Million Cups and through Starspace and other things that I've done. And I get to know tons of people because lots of people come and want to present or come and attend our events, and I'm always the person getting to know. So I always want to get to know 3 people, and one of those 3 people is always the person getting to know the thing. I got to spend some time getting to know Daniel. I learned a lot about Daniel and what a phenomenal guy he is just in the 5 minutes before this event started. That's great. I achieved one of those goals. I need to get to know 2 more people before I leave. That's one of my goals. So you've got to prepare. And preparation means a bunch of different things. It means having a goal for who you want to meet, how many people you want to meet, and how you're going to, and then preparing yourself to actually go out there and meet them. What you said about hygiene, absolutely killer. Like super important. Preparing yourself to be around the kinds of people that you want to talk to. If you're going to a networking event and it's a bunch of stodgy old professionals, right? And they work in an environment where they dress like stodgy old professionals, like even if you're a flip-flop, shorts, and t-shirt kind of guy, like it might be a good idea to look a little bit more like them. Basic influence 101 is people respond to people who look and seem like them. So I'm going to prepare myself, not only hygiene-wise, right, but I'm also going to say, okay, I'm going to go meet with oil and gas people. They're a little more buttoned up. I need to take that into account. Now, I can push them a little bit, but I don't try to push them too much. So, knowing that as you go in, you're prepping, networking is partially about influence. You're there to influence someone to do something that you want them to do. And so you're going to have to influence them. So preparing even the mindset of saying, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to influence them to help to achieve the goal that I have set up, right? So you've got to have that goal and then going in with the right mindset that you're there to influence that person. Okay, any questions about not prepping, not preparing? Okay. Lesson number 2, pitfall of networking is not spending time building rapport. Hi, my name is Mike Slack. I work at Clever and I want to sell you software. Does anyone want to buy from me? No. If I jump in here and I immediately go into a sales pitch, you're going to shut me down like a used car salesman, right? That's not my goal, especially at the beginning, as I get to know anyone. I didn't always know this. I was terrible about this because I'm a very focused person. I'm a very driven person. I want to succeed. And so sometimes, though, the straightest path isn't to hit something on full speed. Sometimes you've got to soften things up by slowing down. And that's a lesson I learned the hard way. I was a high school teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. I was teaching special education. I'm 23 years old, and I get my first job, and I go into the classroom, and I'm teaching kids who have moderate intellectual disabilities, so we're in a self-contained classroom. We're not doing the standard curriculum. We're doing a lot of life skills. We're doing a lot of modified academic skills. And in the classroom, as a 23-year-old guy, I'm now supervising 2 50-year-old women who are paraprofessionals. And it's my job to come in there and influence them and work with them. And I'm the leader in the classroom, this 23-year-old guy with no experience, and they've been doing it for 20 years. There's a lot I could have learned from them. But I came in with this hard-charging attitude, and I literally said on my first day, when we're getting the classroom ready, my name's Mike, I put my head down, I like to work really hard, we're gonna have the best year ever, I'm gonna work so hard, it's gonna be great, let's get going. That was me. My first 4 or 5 months there were really hard. Because all I knew about was focusing and getting something done, but I didn't really understand the soft skills of influence. And that starts with bonding and rapport. So what do you think I mean by bonding and rapport? What is bonding and rapport? Getting to know somebody, right? How do you get to know somebody? Talk to them and spend time with them a little bit. What are some ways you can talk to people and spend time with them at a networking event? There's something really simple and basic that I'm driving at. Introduce yourself. Ask them questions about them. Whenever I go, and anytime I'm getting to know new people, I, in my head, think 70% is listen, 30% is talk. And oftentimes it's even 80-20. 70% is listen, ask questions, 30% is talk about myself. You don't bond with someone by telling them how great you are. Again, college, I had a humbling experience when I'd gotten a couple years into my college experience, and so the people that I started college with were all juniors or seniors together, and we're kind of telling stories about the earlier years, and they're like, yeah, Mike, I really didn't like you when we first started. I was like, why not? Said, well, you never said this outright, but basically whenever you'd meet people, it'd be like, hi, my name's Mike Slack and I'm really smart. That was their impression of me. I did a terrible job bonding and rapport because I wanted to get right at it. I'm a serious guy, I want to be taken seriously. That's my job, right? That's not how it works. At least that's not how it works well. Second thing I did, another thing I did that was really dumb as a high school teacher is my second year. It was also my first year. I got to school every day about 7 a.m. Class started at 8:20. I got there at 7 a.m. so I could get my room perfect. I get all my materials copied and printed and everything organized that I needed to. And I got everything organized, but I needed to make some copies, and the first floor printer was broken. And my classroom is on the first floor. And I had already been there 20, 30 minutes. I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling the pressure. Class is going to start soon. another veteran teacher walks through the hall, and she's just walking in, bags in her hand, and I say, "Do you know where the second floor printer is?" And she turns and looks at me and she says, "Good morning, Mr. Slack." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning. How are you?" The beginning of bonding rapport is good morning, how are you? Acknowledging someone else's presence, just talking to them. Siri just listened to all of that and then was really confused. Told me how confused she was. So you can't jump right in from hello to sell, right? You start out with hello and how are you? And like for me, I had to turn that into a rule so I could actually apply it. And so when I get into the office every day, I am really intentional because I want to get right to work. I'm still the same way inside, but I've learned a little bit. I want to get right to work. I want to tell people the thoughts I had last night and the thoughts I had driving in and all the emails that have come in and the messages. But instead, I force myself to go around to everyone that I can, and I just say, "Good morning. How are you?" And I ask. And there's a part of me that wants to go work that's like, they're telling a long story now, but that's good. That's important. That's how you build a relationship, and that's how you build influence. I want to see if anyone else is willing to share maybe a story they've had in bonding rapport, maybe an experience that they've had where they've jumped right in. Yeah.
This is funny, that wasn't happening. So I was a treasurer for the engineering team in the company. So I tried to raise money and, helping the job in the engineering team. So I got a lot of energy. So the first staff when I came, yeah, we try to get it done. Trying to bring out my energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognize I need to change my skill.
Mm-hmm.
Soft skill, and then I determined to sit down with the team, share my interests, get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. It's considered to be the team building because when you work in a project, team building is really important to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have an experience that they might want to share, something or a thought that they have while hearing this? Yeah, Grayson.
Well, I don't tell a lot of people this, but when I was in high school and middle school, I got really into magic. Not magic yet. Magic. I was a magician. I was really into the Techlahoma magician scene. I had all these quote-unquote friends that really weren't my friends. They were people that wanted me around because I always knew how to do magic. And I've always been a very social person, and I knew how to manipulate people based on what I did with magic. So I did a card trick with a deception at that point. But at one point in time, junior year in high school, I realized that this really wasn't who I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to figure out how to define my influence in a way that's going to be positive. And so I used that to really start the same things I learned in magic. I used to start building friends that were going to be impactful and meaningful in my life, not just people that want to get around to do magic with. I guess where I'm going with that is I had an aha epiphany moment where I was like, okay, how can I make this a useful skill? Got really into social engineering and information security. And there's some people things that go with that, but there's also a lot of good in extraction, figuring out how to pull information out of people that's easy for me to influence them with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yes, just observing something that's
Yeah.
negative and making it positive.
Yeah. Anyone else have a thought to share? So one thing, too, about bonding rapport is that, it's really, really important that as you're building team chemistry and team cohesion to express a level of vulnerability. And so that's what I'm trying to do with all of you guys by telling these stories about myself, where I've made a bunch of mistakes. I'm trying to have this level of vulnerability here because I think now you can probably trust me to say like, oh, that's a guy who's willing to really be honest, right? And I don't have all my stuff together and I don't have it all figured out, but I'm working on it just like everyone else, even though we all pretend like we've all got it figured out in networking. We're trying to be this perfect person that someone wants to hire or whatever, but And so when you do that, other people reciprocate. Not everyone, not all the time, but other people reciprocate. I've learned a whole lot more about Grayson and Tommy here than if I wouldn't have shared something personal from my background. The caveat, which is its own pitfall, is oversharing. You do not need to overshare if you're trying to be vulnerable. Huge mistake is to go, a huge pitfall is to go into a networking situation and be like, yeah, this one time I let everyone in the whole company know all the secret passwords because I made this big mistake. Like, no, that's too much. That's a little oversharing, right? Or, and the challenge with oversharing is oftentimes you're not sure you're oversharing until you've said it out loud. So, it's always good to have some folks you can bounce things off of as well. But spending time with bonding and rapport, a really key principle in bonding and rapport comes from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Has anybody read that book? It's an old book, but very, very good book. Dale Carnegie in that book says that everyone in the world has the same favorite word. And that favorite word that's the same favorite word of everyone in the world is their own name. Everyone likes to hear their name. Everyone likes to be called by name. People say, oh, I'm terrible with names, and I'm not good with names, and I'm not great with names, but I work really darn hard at it because it's important. And if you remember someone's name and can call them by name, that makes a big difference in your ability to bond and potentially influence that person. So, figure out however you have to do it. Don't be like Michael Scott from The Office and come up with crazy mnemonic devices. Just think about ways that you can help try to remember people's names, jot them down, do something to remember folks' names. Key in bonding and rapport. Okay, I've got my phone here with my notes and slides here. Okay, pitfall number 3, not knowing how to describe yourself or what you do in a way that's comprehensible at all to the other person. So I worked in nonprofits. I fundraised for about 6 years and led fundraising organizations and campaigns. And one of the things that I saw over and over and over again is that people would be terrible at describing what they do. They could be doing the most amazing, life-transforming work in the world, and you ask them to describe it, and they give you just the tiniest corner. It's almost like they give you the tip of the iceberg and they leave out the bulk of it. So I ran fundraising for a nonprofit called Circle of Care, and they're a child welfare organization. They provide foster care services. They operate 5 campuses around the state. They house kids who are in crisis situations. They house homeless mothers in a campus and provide treatment and counseling and job skills. They provide a transitional program for kids who are in college but are homeless, and you can live on their campus and get support during college. All this amazing, amazing stuff. But when I went to go start to work for them, I'd say, well, tell me about what you do. And I like to play dumb, and so I would go around and I would just ask everyone to just tell me what you guys do. Like, I'd love to hear and learn more. And I know what they do, but I want to hear how they express it. And so for the foster care program, where we have social workers who are working with DHS and getting homes certified and parents trained and getting children in those homes and then supporting them with a wonderful variety of things after they got in the home. What do you guys do? Oh, well, we deliver welcome baskets. Like, well, what are welcome baskets? Oh, it's baskets of stuff kids need when they get placed in foster care. Oh, really? What else do you guys do? Oh, it's a lot of DHS paperwork. Your whole agency, everything you do, all this good, amazing stuff is boiled down to welcome baskets, right? So what kind of support does that nonprofit need? Oh, let's just give them more welcome baskets and they'll be great, right? They just need to do more paperwork. No. I will tell you that it is no different with a lot of the tech folks that I've worked with. Describe what you do to someone who's not exactly in your field. Describe what you do to me, a sales guy. Who wants to tell me what they do? Okay, so that indicates it's potentially a sore spot. But as you walk into a networking event, there are people in that room who want to hire you. There are people in that room who want the skills that you have, who will probably pay you more money than you're making right now for the skills you have right now. There are absolutely people in this city who are dying to hire you, if that's what you're looking for. There are people in this room that you might want to hire if you've got a business. The challenge isn't the skills and the compensation all the time. Sometimes that's it. Oftentimes the skills is just knowing that you do the things that they want. And so one of the problems is that somebody might say, oh, well, I build websites. Okay, well, tell me what that means. Give an illustration. Not only not knowing how to describe yourself, but not knowing and describing the kinds of people that you want to meet and who you're looking for. How do you describe those people? Are you wanting to meet C-suite executives? Are you wanting to meet someone who knows a little bit more about front-end development than you? Are you looking for someone who's going to hire you? Do you know who? And then during that conversation in a networking environment, are you able to share that effectively? This is what I do in 2 sentences, and these are the kind of people that I'm hoping to meet. These are the folks that I'd like to meet. I've already said to you guys, who am I looking to meet? I'm looking to meet technology leadership, marketing, sales leadership, folks who are struggling with their software and don't think it can be better, but wonder if maybe software can be a good fit. I'd love to talk with them and learn about their business. Those are the people I'm hoping to meet. People who are interested in augmented reality, interested in virtual reality, not sure if it applies to their business, but want to have a conversation. Those are the people that I want to meet. Who are you wanting to meet?
Other software developers.
Okay, so that's good. Let's narrow it down. All software developers everywhere, or software developers with a particular stack?
More towards this modern web.
The what web?
Modern web.
Okay, software developers who do modern web stuff. Why do you want to meet software developers who do modern web stuff?
That's kind of the direction I want to take my career.
Okay, and do you want to learn from them?
Yeah.
I want to look for software developers who do modern web stuff, who are interested in helping me progress in my skills. You're going to get a lot more response with a narrower ask than a general broad ask, because it's too broad and it doesn't provide a hook for someone to remember. But when you can get specific, so that goes for both describing what you do and then who you're trying to meet. Now you know, okay, these are the situations when I take him and I connect with that person. Describing yourself is surprisingly hard and takes a lot of practice, but I think it's absolutely worth it. Does anyone have any stories or examples that they might want to share of either something that they've done or something that they've heard somebody where you just really had a challenge in describing what you do? Or am I making it seem easier than it is? Is describing this stuff actually really hard?
I don't think it's super hard to describe it so much as a lot of people's goals when describing something is just putting a small nutshell. Something simple and easy, everybody can kind of understand it out and deep into it,
Yeah.
which is where you get those, like for my job, it's easy to say I deliver cleaning products.
You do what?
I deliver cleaning products.
You deliver cleaning products, right?
That's just the smallest possible nutshell.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna second that, I mean, I came from a sales background too, and the hardest thing to really, wrap your head around is the elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Quick 10 seconds, what do you have to offer, what solution are you providing, for what problems?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it does come down to having probably preparation to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at what are they looking for, what do they want to hear?
Mm-hmm.
Saying those words.
Yep.
So,
Getting.
do whatever you need me to do after I figure out what you do.
Yeah. And the one key part of that is I do what you need me to do. So you've taken time to ask questions, to discover what the other person wants, and then to couch your response in what they need to hear, right? So oftentimes what people will say is I'll be at lunch with someone, and this happened the other day. I was at lunch with me and another staff member, and the person across the table said, do you guys do robot process automation? Or it was some other thing like that. And so the person I was with gave like an immediate response. So it was a good response. It was an accurate response, a truthful response. But after he responded, I said, why do you ask? why do you ask maybe the most important question you can possibly ask in a networking situation? If someone starts, if their interest is piqued in you or something you've said, and they ask a very specific, narrow question, why say, you always want to like soften it a little bit and say, totally understand that. A lot of people ask me about that, but I'm curious, why do you ask about that particular thing? Because there's something behind that question that they haven't revealed yet, and you're going to do a better job of answering that question when you understand what it is that's behind it. So, yeah, good stuff. Grayson, were you going to say something too?
I was just gonna say that sometimes, it's not always easy, but I shared about magic. I still have people today who think I'm a magician. Like, they come up to me like from a long time ago and they think they want me to show them a magic trick. So some of the things that I try to do is, and I've got a lot of different things that I'm involved in, but like asking somebody who's close to me, what it is that they think I do. Because sometimes it's not like, they don't,
Yep.
based on what their feedback, like, it's not clear what that really is. So before going into a room, sometimes I ask, what is it that I want to be?
And your story brings up such a key point, which is what you do today may not be what you did 5 years ago, the last time you talked to somebody. So it's really important to update people. And when you describe yourself, continue to revise that. Hi, I'm Mike Slack. I used to raise money for foster care, but today I do this. In their minds, they're only going to contact me if they think, oh, I want to talk about foster care and fundraising. Well, that's not really what I do anymore. I'd still love to talk about stuff. I'm very passionate about that, but you may not know this is what I do now. So it's up to you to continually refresh that in people's minds. Yeah. Last pitfall is being a biz dev guy in this world and witnessing lack of follow-up. Lack of follow-up is a huge pitfall to networking. If you go in and you're prepared, you have a goal of how many people you want to meet, you've maybe even scrubbed the list and you kind of know who you want to meet, and you go in there and you bond and rapport with someone, and you describe yourself accurately and you let that person know who you're trying to meet, and then you walk away and you never interact with that person again, shame on you. What you can do, which is totally within your locus of control, is ensure that you get that person's contact information. This was such a great conversation. I would love to share a little bit more with you about myself. Do you have a business card? Would it be all right with you if I gave you my business card? Great, thank you very much. And guess what? You're going to take that business card and you're not going to leave it in your pocket or your dresser drawer. You're going to go home to your office, whether that's at a workplace or a home office, and you're going to go on LinkedIn and you're going to connect with that person and you're going to add a note. No more blank LinkedIn connections. Anytime you connect with somebody, add a note 100% of the time. It was so great to meet you at X event where we discussed Y. I'd be honored if we could connect, and I'd love to chat about X, Y, and Z. That's it. You can then go and send them a follow-up email too, and just say, just wanted to say thank you for spending some time chatting with me. The words thank you are so important, and it is always a good filler if you don't know what to say. If you want to reconnect with someone but you don't know what to say, thank you is the perfect thing to say, to reconnect. But you can grab that business card and always ask for it. So part of the follow-up is having an ask, right? When you're at a networking event and you've got your 3 people, you need to have some sort of ask. Can I get a business card? Or if you network with this person at an event and you realize this is somebody I really want to meet, they either have something for me that I want. It is so important that you can, in that moment, say, I would love to get together with you for coffee. I'm going to pull up my calendar, and it looks like these are 3 dates and times that work for me. Do any of those times work for you? Would it make sense to go ahead and put this on the calendar now so we don't forget later? Whenever I'm with somebody, my rate of closing a meeting, a first meeting, is so much higher if in that moment I say, let's go ahead and put it on the calendar now, versus, oh, let me go back to my office and I'll send you 3 times and then maybe we'll figure it out. Not going to happen. Not going to happen at the rate it happens if in that moment you say, I've loved our conversation, I'd love to talk to you about X. Could we get together at this day, at this time where I have an opening? Follow-up is absolutely key, and a whole lot of stuff is missed simply for lack of follow-up. Okay, we're running low on time, so I want to jump to a reading list. So I've read a variety of books, not just on sales, but then also, I think it was Socrates that said that the beginning of wisdom is knowing thyself. And I think it absolutely applies to sales, to networking, basically anything you do. The beginning of wisdom is knowing yourself. And so these are 4 books that I've read that have been really helpful, either in getting to know myself or in improving my skills in business development and sales. The first one's called The 7 Levels of Communication. It's from a guy who advertises himself as the most referred real estate agent in the country. He's out of Kansas, I think. It's a great book. It's written as an allegory, telling the story of a sales real estate guy who had a certain set of tactics and then changed those tactics. It's excellent at teaching the value of giving a referral to someone before expecting a referral back. If you're at a networking event, one of the things that could be running through the back of your head as you're talking to someone and asking questions and learning is try to discover something kind you can do for that person, for their business. Is there anything I can do to help you? Here's a connection that might be helpful for you. Here's a meetup that might be helpful for you. Here's a book that I like that might be interesting to you. There's an equation I have in my head. Make 2 referrals for someone before you ever expect one back. 2 referrals, absolutely. I'm going to invest in this relationship. I'm going to make 2 deposits before I even think about making an ask out of that deposit. So 7 Levels of Communication is great on referrals. Dale Carnegie's a classic for a reason. It's a great book. I haven't read it in like 10 years. I need to go back and find my copy and reread it. The bottom 2 are much heavier in terms of the content. Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, which is being rewritten and revised and revisited by other authors, Travis Dewberry or something like that, has Emotional Intelligence 2.0. But this is phenomenal at getting to understand the difference between the prefrontal cortex, the rational reasoning, higher order thinking part of your brain, and then the amygdala and the emotional thinking part of your brain, and how they interact and the speed at which they interact and what that means for you and understanding yourself and how you interact with others. And then Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, phenomenal book providing like 7 key things for you to understand about how persuasion happens. So this is me. If you want to connect with me, I'd be honored. My email is mike@clever.com. My Twitter is Mike_Slack_OK. And on LinkedIn, I'm linkedin.com/in/slackmike. So with that, I don't want to close on a giant picture of my face, so I'm going to go back here. Do we have time for any questions, or are we up?
I think we're up. I'll go ahead and wrap it up, and then afterwards, while we're
Sure.
moving out, we can
Awesome.
Cool.
Cool.